John Dahl's 1998 film Rounders is widely hailed as the greatest poker movie of all time. It's been almost 25 years since its release, and there is yet to be a film to eclipse its status. While almost every poker player has watched this movie, here are 30 amazing facts that you probably did not know. Both Matt Damon and Edward Norton were invited to play in the 1998 WSOP main event. During the first of 4 days, Matt Damon had pocket kings and was knocked out by former WSOP champion and poker legend Doyle Brunson, who held pocket aces. Worm was originally supposed to smoke, but avid non-smoker Edward Norton refused. Edward had to compromise when it came to smoking because he was concerned about his health. This ensured that he didn't smoke throughout the entire movie.
So please, no smoking.
On the DVD commentary, it's revealed that Edward Norton ad-libbed a number of Worm's lines. He was the Rounders cast who would often improvise and come up with lines on the set. Most of these were perfect, thus they were left in the movie. Among them was,
"Hey, she crossed her legs too fast, all right?"
which is a quote from Chinatown of 1974.
Your wife got excited. She crossed her legs a little too.
Writers David Levine and Brian Koppelman have cameos in the Atlantic City poker scene. They are the two players used to illustrate giveaway tells. Early on, Mike is seen taking money out of a poker book called Super System, which was written by Doyle Brunson. He later pulls quotes from the book with the lines,
"No limit Texas Hold'em is the Cadillac of poker."
Right before we see Worm released from jail, he shaves his goatee off. This was the same goatee that Edward Norton featured in American History X, which had been filmed months prior to this movie. You also notice that his hair is shorter than the rest of the movie, and that was the result of Norton's hair growing back after completely shaving it off entirely for that movie. In the original version of the script, Mike McDermott was going to make a move on Phil Hellmuth in the Atlantic City big money game, not Johnny Chan. In the final poker scene between Teddy KGB and Mike, the boxing fight on the TV is Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Jesus Chavez. Edward Norton wears almost the same costume throughout the entire film, especially the brown leather coat that he wears. Michael wears the same clothes for a period of almost 3 days as he's on a rush to win the money to pay off grandma. Two crucial scenes involve head-to-head poker games between Matt Damon and John Malkovich. Damon and Malkovich would each later play the character Tom Ripley in The Talented Mr. Ripley and Ripley's Game, respectively. Mike and Worm are at a hot dog stand while Mike warns him about getting a card cheat reputation. They also mention Joey Knish and how he makes a living playing cards. For a second, the vendor's arm moves and you see a small Knish vending box on the stand. We do not know exactly where Teddy KGB's place is because no one specifically states where it is located, especially Michael or Joey Knish. It is assumed that it's located somewhere in the lower west side of Manhattan, possibly Greenwich Village, where a few scenes were shot. In the final heads-up match between Michael and Teddy KGB, the audience never sees Teddy's two hole cards, but the audience always knows what Mike is holding. In the novelization of the film, Michael and Petra do have a relationship together and did end up sleeping with each other. In the film, it's depicted a little differently, but the elements of the original screenplay were there, inferring that Michael did see Petra after he confronted Worm in their old grammar school gym about the money he now owed her. The novelization of the film ended very differently, as Michael did get to Las Vegas and began a winning career as a poker player. However, he and Joe never got back together. In fact, Joe sent Michael a wedding invitation to her own wedding, to which Michael was not too keen on going to. Worm's resolution was also mentioned in that Michael never saw him again. The hand that Michael uses to beat Teddy KGB in the final game against each other is flopping a nut straight, which in this case was an 8 of spades and a 9 of spades. It was the same move that Johnny Chan used in the game that Michael was watching on his VCR when Petra came to visit him at his apartment. Early in the movie, Mike is seen driving a green 1997-2001 Jeep Cherokee Sport. The same make, model, trim package and color of vehicle is driven 20 years later by Molly Bloom aka Jessica Chastain, the main character in the high-stakes poker movie Molly's Game. Rounders owes its origins to screenwriters Brian Koppelman and David Levine. As the story goes, Koppelman had just visited his private poker club in New York City where he had lost all of his $750 bankroll. At around 2:30 in the morning, an excited Koppelman phoned his friend David, relating his experiences in the underground club and telling him, "We have to make a movie about this." The Rounder script then made the rounds to various agents, where it was eventually discovered in a slush pile in the office of producer Ted Dem, who brought it in the attention of Miramax Films. John Malkovich appears as Teddy KGB, the Russian poker champ. The consummate professional Malkovich acquired his convincing accent by having a Russian woman read his lines first. He then mimicked her accent, resulting in such memorable lines as,
"Kid's got alligator blood."
There was a scene in the original screenplay that never was in the movie. Grandma shoves Worm's face into a urinal and makes him eat a urinal cake. Director John Dahl axed this scene, duly informing the screenwriters that no movie star, Edward Norton in this case, would agree to such humiliation on camera. Assuming Mike played Johnny Chan with 10 big blinds, he wouldn't be able to 5-bet into Chan, and Chan not calling does not make sense. At the State Trooper game, Worm is not clean-shaved despite having visited a barber shop for a shave hours before the game. The 6, 7, and 10 in the last hand change positions between nearly every shot. When Worm and Mike go over to Grandma's place, Worm is chewing a cocktail stick the whole time, which he throws away when he begins to yell at Grandma. Grandma promptly grabs him by the collar and the cocktail stick is back in his mouth again. During the final game between Teddy KGB and Mike, the players in the back room disappear with no explanation and are not seen leaving. One shot, they're in the room, the next, gone. In the first hand of the last game, Teddy was playing dealer and had the big blind out, while Mike had the small blind out and acted first. In a heads-up match, the dealer is the small blind and is first to act. Mike enters the State Troopers card game wearing a jacket and is thrown out of the game without it and is shown later wearing the jacket again. But you can barely hear the jacket get thrown out on the ground after him. Mike's monologue at the end describes him walking away with about $60,000. He had an original stake of $10,000 that he doubled to $20,000 before letting KGB and Grandma goad him back to the table. Even though if he had doubled, that would have been $40,000, not $60,000. KGB could have play money on credit because it's his club. That's what Mike is suggesting when he says to him,
Feel free to reload at any time.
Bill Camp played one of the cigar-smoking poker players beaten by Mike as he tried to accumulate Grandma's payment. He also played as a poker player named Harlan Eustace in Molly's Game.